Hey, this is Kyle Crawford from Strong Dads. Strong Dads podcast would love to thank the Crimers Beer House for coming alongside of us. The Crimers Beer House was started in 1982 by the Crimer family, and since that time, they have definitely become a Cincinnati favorite. So if you're looking for an incredible meal in an incredible setting, definitely go down to Route 128 and check out the Crimers Beer House. All right, hey guys, what's going on back here? I'm back live action here.
Yeah, where you been, man?
I took a week off. You did a show without me. That's okay. It's acceptable.
I don't know. Those shows always go the smoothest.
Oh, man. See, you threw the first jab, so I'm going to throw one back at you.
Yeah. What are we doing today anyway?
Today, I'm going to pose a question to you, Merle.
Yeah.
And we'll see how you respond. Today, we're going to talk about why the heck Merle was even born.
Oh,
So, Merle, why were you born?
What kind of loaded question is that? Why was I even born? Like, you question, like, why were you even born? How are you saying that? Or is it...
I mean, you can take it however you want. I just posed the question. I can't help it.
Holy cow. I'm taking, because I know you, I'm like, why were you even born? That's the tone I'm picking up out of that.
Oh, that's on you.
That's on me.
That's on you if that's how you take it. I can't help that. Yes, we're going to talk today about why you out there, all you men, why out there you were born. Maybe.
Okay, I got you.
So you're a part of that
I'm part of it.
Category.
So you're not questioning why, but like why, like in general, why, like almost like purpose. Like what's your purpose?
That's good.
All right, yeah. Hey, welcome to Strong Dads, guys. We are going to have some fun today, but we are going to talk about something. Actually, I think you were the one who originally kind of pulled this up. I think Mark Twain kind of piqued your interest on this.
Yeah. So when we were kind of brainstorming different topic ideas to talk about something, actually, it got brought up in the Man series over at Crossroads. They do the Man series of 5 Marks of a Man, which I know I've talked about here. And Brian Tomes, the preacher over there, he quoted Mark Twain. And I'm just going to read it just to make sure I don't butcher it, because
you would never do that. No,
since things go so smooth when I'm not here. But Mark Twain says the 2 most important days in the life of a man is the day he was born and the day he finds out why.
Oh yeah.
And that question is kind of always, after I hearing that from Brian Tomes, it kind of just stuck with me, and I think it's kind of cool. I think if we look at it, we kind of dive into it, I think it'll bring up some good conversations, and hopefully kind of have you guys out there brainstorm and start thinking about those 2 most important days in the life of a man. So.
Yeah, no doubt. But before we go any farther, we really have a couple things to do. Why are you bringing your tools? Okay, so we're back on the tool demo day.
Yes.
He walks into the studio today, and he's got like a gallon jug of coffee that he survives off of, and his new favorite tool. What do you have there today?
This I got this not too long ago. I got this in one of those big tool kits.
The package deal.
Yeah, the package deal. And I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going to use this. Is a right angle drill drive.
I love them.
I was like, I'm never going to use this. And wouldn't you know it, in the past probably 2 to 3 weeks, I have used this sucker. Man, it's come. Yeah. You don't know you need it until you actually need it.
I'm telling you, I love that tool. I mean, I don't have that particular one, but I've actually got a couple of attachments. When I built our house, I had a big heavy duty one that I used to drill all the studs to run the electric wire and stuff. And that was just, my father-in-law said, you got to have one of those. I'm like, I can. When I got that, I was like, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's good.
I'm helping my parents, transform their van into like a camper van. Okay. And so it's real tight spaces, and man, this sucker came in handy. So.
I mean, with that and a hammer, what else do you need?
Seriously,
right?
Yeah. I could have built my whole garage with this sucker if I had it.
All right, so that's the tool of the week.
There you go.
Tool of the week for you
DeWalt,
men out there.
DeWalt, if you're out there, we would love you guys to sponsor our show. We'll showcase all of your tools.
Whatever. Yeah. Well, they have to be provided first, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That is very true.
All right, so let's get to the people who really do sponsor us, who really do show us a little support. So we want to say thank you to Crimer's Beer House for continuing to come alongside Strong Dads and just really just being that guy, Mark Crimer, back there who just believes in the mission, believes in our talk, and wants to promote it. So, Mark, we want to thank you. Go to Crimer's Beer House and have you a big old juicy pork chop or whatever else meets your fancy.
That sounds really good.
Uh-huh.
Also, definitely Strong Dads. We would love to thank Casey's Outdoor Solutions. I'm sure they're gearing up. The season has begun.
It has.
I see the grass is really getting out there. Definitely Casey's Outdoor Solutions. Go down there, check them out. Any outdoor solutions needs you have, definitely check them out.
I don't want to one up you.
Okay.
But I'm going to.
Okay.
I couldn't bring my new tool down into the studio.
It's that big.
It's that big.
What is it?
What are you talking? I'm talking about my tool. You talk about grass cutting season.
Oh, did
you
get a new
should
lawnmower?
see what I just bought.
Oh.
I want another sponsor. I just bought a Kubota 2380 little subcompact tractor. Oh man, it's like heaven.
You were just talking about this like 2 weeks ago.
Hey,
Linda, you allow this to happen?
I prayed over it, and it happened. No, the other one, I blew the other one up. So it was something had to happen. The grass was getting green fast, and we had to make it. And I got a great deal. I didn't buy it brand new. I don't buy too many things brand new. So bought it used, but man, really cool. So anyway, let's get on. Why are we talking about the two most important days of your life?
Man, I think if you guys are like me, you guys.
God forbid. We're in rare form today. We haven't been in the same room in a while.
I know, that's very true. But I think a lot of times men ask a lot of questions and pose a lot of questions, kind of rhetorical questions back to yourself. Like, man, what am I doing in my life? Why am I in this job? What put me in this position? What's my life going to look like? And I think, kind of if we get back to the root of everything, like the two questions we should be asking and kind of posing our questions, why was I born and what the heck am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
And I think, getting back to just the core of questions that really we need to be asking ourselves more so than questions of why am I working this job? Why am I driving this same truck that I've been driving for X amount of years? Why am I in this relationship? Man, let's get back to the core of everything. Let's get back to a purpose-driven question.
I like it, yeah, because like you said, we can why question on so many different things, but if you don't get to the core.
Yeah.
And I like, kind of what Mark Twain says here, the two most important days, the day you were born and then the day you find out why you were born. And I mean, if you can wrap your head around that. So let's get into that a little bit. And again, this is going to be the somewhat of Kyle and I's perspective.
That's true.
And we believe that there's value in this, but so this is certainly up for your own discussion and thought process. So this is not about whether we're right or you're right. This is about how we wrapped our head around it.
I'm definitely right.
Well, I know that. That's why I invite you in here, because I can't wait to be with Mr. Right.
You got to be enlightened about everything in life.
So the first thing, and this actually, again, I refer to this frequently, like the reason why I have greater faith now in many ways than ever is because I was a science teacher. And I remember teaching in biology, having to teach a little bit about reproduction and sex ed and those kind of things. And I just remember teaching the probability of a person coming to an existence, being born. And just that probability, just for a single person. And so I actually kind of did a little work on this. Like, it's an important thing that you were born, because the likelihood of you not being born is far, far greater than the likelihood of you ever being born. All right. Yeah. And just to look at the math on that, and you can do some different research on this, but the math is all over the place. But any way the math slices out, it is huge. in terms of the probability that you're never going to be born. Okay,
That's crazy.
So like, we get the numbers like 1 in 4 trillion is the probability that you are ever going to be born. And actually that is conservative, because you have to go back and say, well, in order for you to be born, it might be 1 in 4 trillion, but then you have your parents being born and their parents being born. And so that lineage also comes with that same probability number. So the idea that you're even on this earth, I think makes us go, wow, like, why? Why was it me and not one of those other sperm and egg combinations?
Right.
Why did my parents get together? And so there's a uniqueness to that.
Yeah.
And again, I know it's cliche, but there's only one of you, right? And you are the best version of you.
Yeah.
And I think just recognizing, not inflating yourself like you're the best because of who you are, but you're the best because of who God created you to be.
Yeah.
You're the best version of yourself. So I don't know. I think just wrapping your brain around the idea of how rare it is that you even get the chance to be on this earth is something that is worth considering.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about, you being born, I think some of the questions that kind of stem off of that, that's when we start to get into that idea of what's your purpose here. So, man, like when you look at you start evaluating who you are and the gifts that you have and the traits that you have and the things that God gave you, and just like you were talking about the crazy statistical, the numbers, when you start putting those in perspective, then you start putting that on top of, what your gifts are, what God gave you, and how crazy special that really makes you. Just like you were saying, man, you are the best version of yourself because of everything that accommodates into you being you. All your gifts, your traits, your skills and abilities. I think that all plays into, just again going back to the question, like, why was I born, and what the heck am I going to do with that? Using those skills and abilities, to go to that second part of that purpose. Trying to find that purpose on why you're born. I think having those gifts and skills and abilities that you do have definitely play into that.
Yeah. Well, so this kind of gets me to that purpose thing. Like and scientists will even verify this, like every molecule, every atom in the universe is there for a purpose. It's there for a reason. Like you cannot take one even atom and remove it from the universe. It's there, and it goes to some purpose. And sometimes we define purpose based off of what we think it can be used for or what its value is. But God's purpose, he makes everything with purpose and on purpose. And the idea that if we are believers, that if you were made in God's purpose, with his purpose in mind. In other words, none of us are purposeless, because God doesn't make things just to be purposeless. Even though in our mind, like this, sometimes, you look at somebody and go, they have no purpose in life. But that's not God's intention.
Yeah.
God intends everything. He does not make things just because let's just have some fun and make something and it's worth nothing.
Right.
All right. So wrapping your head around the idea that if you are made by God, then you are made with a purpose. And I think that in itself right there goes, oh, I want to figure out what this purpose is. Like, what is it? Because that's the big blind spot a lot of times. Like, and I remember like trying to figure out what my purpose was in life when I was younger. Like, well, what am I supposed to do for a living? What's my major going to be in school? What am I going to do 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And trying to figure that out was frustrating for me.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I have talked about that before. You bounce around from job to job, relationship to relationship, because you have this desire to know, well, first off, that there is a purpose for you, and then what is it to discover it?
Well, I think that's really important to note that man, one of the something very important to remember through this whole conversation is that you were intended for a purpose.
Yeah.
That question, like, why, just what you were saying, Merle, like, why was I created? Like, what is the point here? I think it's important to note that you were created, handcrafted by something, by a God that loves and intended something for you. And when you start putting things in perspective, kind of, we've talked in previous shows about having that heavenly view versus that earthly view of things. When you start to put things in perspective, the fact that you were handmade by God, man, you have to also come along with that and say that there's a purpose and why you were made. Like, again, God doesn't do stuff on accident. Like everything he did, he had an intention, behind it. I know in a previous show you were talking about, going out and seeing God's country and seeing the mountains, and there's no way you can deny the creation of God. Like God created all that. And I think the same could be said. Like when we start looking at who you are as a man, there's no question that God made you. There is no question that there is a God, because there's no way this combination of molecules and atoms came together and all of a sudden we're just here. Yeah. And I think it's a distinction that we have to really note, that you are made by someone, and that someone is God.
Good stuff. So, okay, let's move through the idea that, now I feel like I was made for a purpose. Yep. Okay. But let's move into the next part of this, the day that you find out, why you were made. Yeah. And that's finding your purpose. And so this is kind of like I said before, this was a frustrating point. This is where I see younger men getting frustrated. I see older men that have gone into frustration. These are what I often refer to as the grumpy old men, because they never really locked in on purpose. I got the job at the factory, I brought home the paycheck, and is this all there is kind of thing. And so they never really brought it to its full bloom. So let's talk a little bit about how can we help you guys out there, you strong dads, how can we help ourselves and other men and our kids? How can we help them find out and have that day that they discover why they were born, not that they were born?
Yep. This is something that is going to take time. This is something that's going to take multiple people coming alongside of you or someone else to help you discover those. And something that comes to mind, talking about our previous show that we did with you and Michael, talking about getting, men get stuck in a comfort. And that comfort a lot of times is the reason why men don't explore things, and men don't try and find out what their gifts and abilities are, because they get stuck in something that's just comfortable. Just every day I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do this, and then after I get home from work, I'm going to do this. And then what it becomes is that everyday routine. I'm just here for a paycheck. Nothing else really matters. And what that does is it minimizes your true purpose and why you were put here. And so I think getting into the conversation of trying to figure out your purpose here, I think we have to start with getting out of your comfort zone. Sometimes life is hard and it's going to kick you in the butt. And that's a good thing sometimes. You have to be challenged. As men, I think men are wired to want to be challenged and to work at something. And if you just get stuck in a rut every day, man, your purpose, your internal, what you find is your purpose, isn't going to be truly what it can be. I think getting out there and stretching your horizon and challenging yourself, doing new things. This is something I get stuck in a rut a lot because I don't like new things. I like getting in my routine. I like knowing what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And sometimes it's man, I got to challenge myself. I have to put myself in a position where I'm not very comfortable. I don't know all the answers. I don't know what's going to happen. But what that does is, man, you can discover so many cool things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think about this from a dad perspective. It is extremely important to expose your kids to a lot of experiences, different experiences. And man, more now than ever, in the culture that we're growing up in, the amount of experience that kids have staring at a TV or a screen, and being, of course, just sedentary, sitting on the couch kind of thing, doing that, is basically becoming a huge roadblock to ultimately them finding their purpose. Okay. Not too many of them are going to become professional gamers and actually find purpose in that. It's just like you said, it kind of makes us feel good in the moment. It's a comfort thing, but it has very little with most of us to ever discovering our our purpose. Okay. So the first thing really, guys, is you got to get out and get experiences. You got to sign up for different stuff. You got to take on different challenges. And when you do that, and when you encourage your kids to do that, part of this is not just to discover your strengths, it's to discover your weaknesses.
Yeah.
It's to go, oh man, I really sucked at that. That's probably something that if I'm going to stay in it, I better do a lot of work, or maybe I'm not going to do that anymore. And that's okay. Right? I mean, that's okay. Like, when your kids are playing sports and they're little, okay, you're going to try cross country. We're going to give it a shot. Our daughter did cross country for one season, and one season was all, but that was okay. She knew after that, no, I'm not cut out for that.
Right. Which I think brings up a great point, which is kind of as we progress through trying to figure out that purpose. When we talk about trying to help our kids find their purpose, man, we talked about this in a previous show about, putting our kids, our kids above our own reputation. We talked about the idea that, like, as men, as dads, we have to help build a vision for our kids, and in that vision, they'll figure stuff out.
Yeah.
So just like you were saying, allowing your daughter to do cross country, I think is a good thing to expand the horizons, to put them in uncomfortable positions, to see how they respond. And if they don't respond, then you as a parent, as a dad, you step in and you bring them back. Hey, we're going to try this out now. If this doesn't work, I'm here for you the whole time, though. So I think that goes to the next point of seeking that wise counsel. You as a dad need to be seeking wise counsel from someone else, but in that, you should be doing the same to your kids. Like, I think that you need to be speaking truth to your kids, and in that, hopefully, there's wisdom that comes from that. But I think, having been put in many situations growing up, my dad put me in situations like he would be like, hey, we're going to try this out, and if it doesn't work out, it's okay. So I think seeking that wise counsel for us as men is very, very important. And then in return, we need to do that for our kids.
And the number one impediment to seeking wise counsel is arrogance, self-righteousness, pride.
Yeah.
And so I especially see this with younger guys a lot of times when they come in, and especially if they believe they've had some success or they're gifted in a particular area. They kind of get a little bit of that know-it-all sort of thing. And so the way that I seek wise counsel is I take on a humble and coachable mentality. If I really want to discover my purpose, my why, then I need to be able to listen to other people, because other people are going to help direct me in that path. Their good counsel will say, well, you messed that up, or, well, you do that really well, and those are some of the road signs that especially help a younger person and even an older person. And I find the older we get, the more crusty we get in terms of staying in our lane. And sometimes we still are, by the way, even at my age, I'm not fully developed in all of my purpose. Yeah. It's always being developed, and to be able to take counsel, to listen to people, to listen to your wife. Oh man, that one hurts. That hurts. I'm on the fresh heels of that one. Okay. All right. So I just talked to myself. There you go.
Well, to that point about, especially when we're talking about ourselves as being that wise counsel for your kids, man, we've talked about this before, and not having that cookie cut approach towards all your kids. I know for me, my brother and sister are a lot smarter than I am, but I use my hands a lot different than my sister and my brother do. So growing up, my mom and dad put me, they really, not that they force college on my brother and sister, but that was definitely for them, and that was not necessarily for me. So my parents were all about, let's get into the trades. We understand that your mind works a little bit different than your brother and sister. So let's try this for you. Let's get you into the trades. Let's see if this is something that works for you. And ended up working out, and I became a fireman, and my brother got into marketing and into restaurant business, and that's what he does.
Yeah.
So there's different avenues that each of your kids can take, and a truly wise dad and a truly wise man can see your kids' true potentials, and then, enlighten them and put them in situations that greatly benefit them, put them in positions to be successful.
Man, Kyle, can I just say, that's there are a lot of gifts that your parents give you, and that is one of the greatest gifts right there. Like I hear parents, and when I was working in the school world, especially when I was in high school counseling stuff, I'd have parents come in and make statements like, well, I don't care what you do, but no matter what, you are going to go to college.
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh my gosh, do you know that? Go ahead and just hang your kid outside in the desert for 4 or 5 years or whatever. It's brutal. And part of that is, you said, well, we should challenge our kids. I don't need to destroy their spirit, okay, because there's a great damage, even long-term damage that comes by you forcing the square peg into the round hole. And so as a parent, I need to really recognize that, this kid is functioning a little differently. Mm-hmm. You, strong dads out there, you may have been in that situation. In my house, I grew up in a very mechanical house. My dad was a great mechanic. I have 2 younger brothers who are very mechanical. I'm mechanical, but I am the least mechanical of the men that were in my house. And so I kind of knew, I don't know that I want to spend my life doing the mechanics of things. I wanted a little bit more people interaction and that sort of thing. And I felt like my parents said, hey, do what you need to do. Do what you need. I mean, my dad and we had a garage, where that's what my dad made a living out of. And he never said, you've got to go over there and work. He'd be like, the door's always open, but not working was not an option. You're going to work doing something, but trying to figure out what you were good at, what your gift was.
Yeah. And definitely, when it comes to seeking that wise counsel, I think leads us right up to the next point of, man, we need to seek God's.
Yeah.
We have to seek God through all this. Like, if you really want to know your purpose, God made you. I'm pretty sure He knows your purpose. Mm-hmm. So I think with that, we got to be praying about this. This is something, constantly be praying for what the heck you're supposed to do with your life. Mm-hmm. Like, man, God's going to lead you. I've heard this a long time ago. Some people think that, like, when you pray and you ask God for something and then nothing happens, you're like, oh, God didn't answer my prayer. Well, maybe God's just telling you no.
Yeah.
Like, every good dad says no once or twice in their life, right? So when you pray for something and it doesn't come true, like, maybe that's just God saying, maybe this isn't, maybe it'll happen, but maybe it's just not the right timing.
Yeah. Well, it's a type of prayer too, right?
Absolutely.
Like, so typically in my selfish nature, I pray, God, I want this. God, I want this.
Absolutely.
Instead of saying, God, what do you want for me?
Yeah.
God, use me. Yep. Use me. I just want to be kind of that clay, and you mold me how you want me. And so when we talk about being prayerful about this, we're not talking about being selfishly prayerful, like, this is what I want, God, give it to me. It is, God, what do you want for me? Yeah. Reveal that to me. Yep. Show me that, put me in that right place, that position. And so the prayer has to be oriented towards God and His desire, because like you said, He knows your purpose, and you're the one trying to jam it into a different direction.
Yep.
And so asking God, please use me how you see fit.
I mean, that'd be like a car manufacturer, like just giving the car to somebody and then totally ignoring everything that the designer, the engineer designed that car. Like, I'm pretty sure he knows the functionality of that car.
Right.
Pretty sure he knows how that car is supposed to function and how it's supposed to function and why it functions the way it does.
Yeah.
And I think the same exact thing is, bring God along for this, man. If you're trying to figure out your purpose, man, you have to bring God. You have to bring Him along for this ride. Mm-hmm. Like, when you're trying to bring your kids and discover your kids' purpose, when they're learning, man, bring God along. Let them see what that looks like. To ask God, like, just like you were saying, man, I'm clay. Mold me however you see fit, because you made me. And I think, again, it goes to the fact that when you go to God about that, you can't in the back of your mind be like, well, I'm still the driver of this car. I'm going to have to figure this out, man. It's that submission, like, I don't know what the heck I'm supposed to do here. Yeah. Like, show me.
Mm-hmm. And God will then direct your path by the people He brings in, by the experiences you have.
Yes.
The next part of this that we really want to move into, and man, this is a part that I have been fooled by, trapped by, and I think this is the work of Satan, if we can put it that way, is being aware of how you are fleshly being pleased or driven. Okay, what I mean by fleshly is oftentimes we run off course because something feels good. Right? Like, man, I'm loving whatever I'm doing right now because it's fun or it's exciting, it's exhilarating, it's comfortable. All of those are fleshly desires, and Satan is the master of working at that. So he can fool us. Like, let's just say I'm doing something right now that I don't particularly like, but man, I'm making a ton of money doing it. And so I'm making all of this money. I don't really like what I'm doing, but oh man, I got a new truck, I got toys, I got a big house, I get to vacation a lot, and all of a sudden I get down the road and I go, what is all this for? And so understanding when your flesh is being fulfilled, but not your spirit, and how do we determine that? How do we determine it? And so when your spirit is content, your spirit is going to be very different in terms of, we hear the terms of happiness and joy. And happiness is kind of that one-off, like, I feel good right now kind of thing. And joy is, I feel good about where my life is. There's a contentment inside of me. And so when we have a spiritual satisfaction, when that is quenched, we know we're in the right place. We're not second guessing ourselves. And so that's a tough one right there, because man, my flesh can really lead me astray.
Right. And when you had written this down, my mind took me to where Jesus was tempted in the desert. He was tempted by Satan, and at this point, it's in Matthew 4. Like, at this point, Jesus, was in the desert for 40 days, and 40 nights, and he was hungry, and he was tired. Which I don't know about you guys, but when Satan wants to tempt me, he knows. He's like, Kyle's really tired.
I wonder if they had like fast food delivery or anything.
Probably
I could
not.
really use a pizza right now.
I could use a burger right now. It's so good. But I think that goes to that point that, man, we have to know, and I'm speaking to myself here, we have to know what Jesus sounds like. We have to know, because if we don't, man, sometimes Satan can twist words, which he did here to Jesus. He threw scripture at Jesus, and if Jesus didn't know what God had written, man, he would have been swayed right now. And then the whole idea of Jesus goes out the window. But he knew what God sounded like because he was in such a close relationship with him. And I think it goes back to the previous point of seeking that prayer. Know what God wants for your life by asking him, and then he'll reveal things. Satan's also going to reveal things to you. And when you talk about the flesh desire, I also think it's society. Society's going to throw stuff at you. And society tells us what a man's supposed to look like and how they're supposed to dress and what they're supposed to do for a living. And if that's not you, that's not you.
Right.
Like that's where that seeking, through prayer and reading, like seeking God's wisdom and what his true purpose for you in your life is, I think is so important.
Yeah, very much. Okay, so then let's move on to another thing that we get confused on. So we're working through these different areas of trying to lock down more of our purpose. How we measure the success of our purpose is really can get us tripped up. So I'll go back to the money thing before. Yeah. So, and this is where we let the world weigh in on whether we're being successful or whether we're in our purpose or not, okay? And we have to be really careful with what the world measures and what they believe is important. I think of it like earlier we said, God created everything with a purpose. Well, when I'm up on a mountain and I'm walking up a trail and I see a rock off the side of the trail, it is very easy for me to say, well, that rock doesn't have any purpose. But and in that moment and in that time and in my perspective, well, maybe that rock has no purpose for me. Okay, and it's from my perspective that I all of a sudden measure the world. Yeah. And God's perspective is so much more vast. Yeah. It's so, and it's unhinged by time. Yeah. And so I have to step outside of my measurement system and I have to go from God's measurement system. And so doing that means I'm not going to measure by just how I feel things are stacking up, whether it's money, whether it's power, whether it's all these things. I have to seek out, well, what would God's purpose be for this in the big picture?
Yep. This made me think of I used to lead Young Life, which was a high school ministry. And a lot of times as a leader, as someone who's trying to bring kids to understand and know who Jesus is, like a lot of times we would measure it based off of how many kids show up for something.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, the world would say, yeah, if you're a good leader, you'll have 50, 100, 200 kids you know, that show up for an event. But man, God's perspective is like, no, I want this kid. I want this one kid to show up. And if that's the only kid that shows up, man, he's going to get to hear something awesome.
You served your purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it just goes to the idea, again, I know I said it before, but like God has this eternal perspective, and we have such a small glimpse in that. And a lot of times we get caught up in what the world's perspective and what the world measures as success.
Man, that is good stuff. So, guys, that's kind of our approach of trying to figure out the two most important days of your life. The day you were born and figuring out, man, that was miraculous just in that everything came together just to create you. But the second day is like, man, I now I know what I'm doing here. And that is all this process. And we hopefully the steps kind of or the processes that we walk through will will show some light to you to help you either change direction or solidify the walk that you're on. So either way, that's our challenge. Remember, man, making mistakes is all part of this.
Absolutely.
And getting uncomfortable, getting dirty, screwing up. Because, you know, when we screw up, we look at that as that's a failure. God says, no, that's my purpose. You know, and so to figure that out, when I work with especially younger guys, and they're in this mix of, man, I'm bouncing around from place to place, job to job. Because we come from a Christian background, this is my approach, because you have to boil things down to their core. Like, okay, let's get rid of all the junk, all the mess. You know, what am I here for, and how do I even approach it? And there's three things that I just try to get guys to think about. And these three things, if you just start from these and you start to form your actions from these, you'll work differently. One is the idea that your purpose is you are to love God. You are to give all the credit to God. You are to honor God. Right? And so you did not create yourself. You are not on your own purpose. You are of God's purpose. So you are to love God. The next thing is you are called, even when you don't like to, you are called to love people.
Yeah.
You are called to love people. And that means to be able to work with people and to be able to respect people and to appreciate people and to honor people, because you can't go it alone. So think about that. You can't go it alone, because that person that you're going to love, they are on a purpose also, and they are going to be trying to do the same for you. And when we get people working in community like that, we get success. Yeah. Okay. And the last thing, and I think this is a thing that just sticks with me really in the daily work that we do. Christ did not come to be served, but he came to serve. Mm. And so all of us, even at the minimal level of what we are to do, we are to serve. Yeah. Whether you are selling insurance, whether you're building homes, whether you're teaching, whatever it is that you do, you don't do it for yourself. You do it because you're serving somebody. And if you don't do it well, people are not going to keep you around for long. You have to serve other people. And teaching your kids, teaching yourself, well, I just need to learn to serve. I got to serve. I got to do a good job for other people. If I can keep those three things in mind, that I'm just going to be here for others, I'm going to be on purpose right there. I'm going to be on purpose. And then I can start to hone that and work that path to get to my niche. Like, okay, now I got my gifts working for my purpose. And when I've got my gifts working for my purpose, man, I'm getting into a sweet spot.
Yeah. So good, man. I hope you guys got a lot from just this conversation that we had. I hope it starts to kind of get you brainstorming and thinking about stuff. As we close out this show, just a challenge that I think we would love to see. Like if you are struggling with what your purpose is, man, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be able to discover what your purpose is. It's going to be a process, seeking that wise counsel, getting into the Word and praying about it. Put yourself in uncomfortable positions. Try and figure this out. It's going to be a process. If you are married and you're trying to figure out what your purpose is as a couple, do it together. If you have kids and you're still trying to figure out what your purpose is, man, bring everyone along with you. I mean, you obviously as a man have to figure out what your purpose is in order to truly lead and to truly serve your family well. But man, I would just encourage you guys to start the brainstorming process. Start the process. If you know what your purpose is, man, what are we doing with that? How are you living your purpose out? Are you really fulfilling what God truly wants for you? So I think this week and the upcoming weeks, I hope this kind of gets the ball rolling for you. Go out there and try and figure out what the heck your purpose is, and let's do something with it.
Two most critical things that lead people into my office with depression. One is hope, no hope, when I've lost hope. And I've lost hope often because I don't believe that God can help me, that there isn't a God, that I'm worthless, I'm a failure. Okay, and so loss of hope is one huge reason why I got work in the world of depression. The other is I'm not worth anything. I don't have a purpose. And so when I have guys that come in my office that have lost hope, or they have lost purpose or don't understand purpose, that is where the seed of depression begins to grow. Yeah. And so if you are struggling with depression, if you're struggling with just a discontent heart, with anger, with anxiety, chances are we're struggling with a hope issue or we're struggling with a purpose issue. And when we can start to wrap our head around that, we can start to see a little bit more light. So I challenge you with those things. Figure those out. Get some help. If we can help you here at Rock Solid Families, please reach out, 812-576-7625. And I know we don't want to use the world's measurement system, but man, if you like what we're doing, give us a like. Give us a like. Share, spread, subscribe to our channel. Okay, yeah. These are the things that from the world's measurement tool. And Kyle, I love what you said. Maybe there's only just one guy that needs to hear this, and that's the one that's going to go out there and be on a different purpose. But we'd like to improve our chances if that's a possibility. And so share our message, get it out there.
For sure. Definitely. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Casey's Outdoor Solutions and Kramer's Beer House. Thanks for coming alongside of us and believing in what we believe in. We really appreciate you guys. Again, go out there, share our message, and we really appreciate you guys. Go out there and be some strong dads.
I think next show I'm going to drive the Kubota down into the studio.
Yeah, right.
That'd be fun.
Just park it right here.
I'm going to put that puppy on
you
purpose.
You can sit on it.
I can sit on it.
Yeah, I like it.
We need to be done. I'd like to welcome Casey's Outdoor Solutions as a new sponsor to our podcast. Casey's is a premier garden center and gift shop located in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Casey's offers a wide selection of plants, landscaping materials, home and garden decor, and gifts for every occasion. Casey's is committed to providing exceptional service, a unique shopping experience, and value to every customer. Stop in and see what makes Casey's so unique. Located at 21481 State Line Road, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, or call 812-537-3800. Let Casey's help you add beauty to your home.